Commando! HeroQuest. Deep inside another dimension, face battling barbarians and evil magic on a quest for adventure in a maze of monsters. This is HeroQuest, the fantasy adventure game where winning means mastering the arts of combat.
I'll use my broadsword.
And magic.
Fire of Wrath.
Once you get into it, you'll never be the same. HeroQuest. Now with 2 new adventure packs, the legend grows.
HeroQuest was such a game changer. There were no dungeon crawl games before its release, therefore it was the first of its kind. Instead of having that choice, your only alternative was to play Dungeons and Dragons and face the difficulties of trying to organize a game. In today's age of tech, there is so much out there to assist you to run a game successfully with apps and tools. Back then, it was considerably harder. For us small boys at the time, it was mostly our uncle who conducted games for us when he returned from university to spend the holidays at my grandmother's. That is not to say we couldn't run the games. We possessed all of the second edition books, manuals, and compendiums. My uncle looked like Luke Skywalker, and for that reason, we trusted him more than ourselves to administer a fair game. My cousin was having a birthday party. I didn't know any of his mates. The party had overshot its deadline, and everyone was refusing to leave. What was making everyone refuse to leave? Well, after eating the birthday food and cutting his cake, my cousin unwrapped his presents. One was from my grandmother, and it was HeroQuest. We all were excited and wanted to play the game after seeing the contents of the box. My cousin wanted to be the GM. He had to learn the rules fast and on the go. Everyone desired to be a wizard or elf because they possessed magic. Being the last to pick a character, I became the meat shield barbarian. Everyone regretted this decision, since over several games, both the elf and wizard had their asses stomped, while I was the only one growing stronger with each game. What blew us all away was how the dungeon was being expanded with furniture and monsters. We all didn't want to stop playing, but it was getting late and school was on the following day. I received my copy for Christmas in 1989 and then watched the adverts on television when the expansions came out in the 90s. I did buy 3 of the expansions in the Adventure Design Kit, however I felt that most of the expansions were just cash grabs. I was underwhelmed by Keller's Keep and Return of the Witch Lord. I was expecting the box to have 1 or 2 distinct new models, such as a Witch Lord figure, rather than what we have, mountains of repeat sculptures. The only expansion that made me feel like I wasn't being robbed out of my pocket money was Wizards of Morcar. That was the type of expansion I expected, with numerous new models, mercenaries, and new spell cards. The Adventure Design Kit I was scared to use unless I was taken to the library to photocopy blank dungeon sheets. HeroQuest allowed us to replicate a D&D experience. Instead of just my cousins, uncle, my first brother, and myself playing D&D, it expanded the experience to include all of my brothers and friends too. Even now, I have the original board game in Shanghai. Sometimes I introduce it to my Chinese students. Despite being a very old game, its magic seems to have the same effect on my young students. Years later, after years of rumors of a HeroQuest revival, nothing had happened. I got into Super Dungeon Explore and began collecting everything. Then signed up for their first Kickstarter, Forgotten King. At the time, you always heard horror stories of many crowd fundraisers failing. That Kickstarter was a success, and then Super Dungeon Legends was announced shortly thereafter. Everyone this time went all in, like a gambler in a casino knowing they had a perfect hand of cards. I also went full in with the Dark Console pledge at $150. The Kickstarter's aim was $80,000, but the campaign raised over $1,290,000. Unbeknownst to us, they seized our money and ran, shedding their previous company name and becoming Ninja Division. I have learned that Ninja Division filed for bankruptcy on November 28, 2024, and their website has been taken offline. It appears that Ninja Division never intended to reimburse backers or provide us with any kind of compensation. The requests from several backers for the company to release the STL files of the models we purchased were ignored. Because there is no real consumer protection on crowdfunding platforms, I will never use Kickstarter again. This turned me off the hobby for a very long time. So when the reboot of HeroQuest was finally announced, I declined to participate in its crowdfunder, all because of what happened with Super Dungeon Explore. The reboot is now available for retail, and I have just placed an order. Board gaming is not popular in China, so it's tough to collect games here.
As it should always be. The foundlings are the future. This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.